Well, morning, as Seth said earlier, we're ready to give you an update on the results of the master plan survey that we sent out. I think it was middle of May or so. So first of all, appreciate everybody that responded. We had 44 responses to the survey, which is great. They said a good response rate is like 3%, so that would have been really disappointing, but it would have basically been the team that would have responded. So appreciate you guys. And just as a kind of some background for those that maybe weren't here when we were pursuing this land, in November, December, we purchased about 18 acres just down the road about a mile. So if you're leaving here going back towards Draft, just past enlisted auctions, there's trees. It doesn't look like much, but there's a field of trees there, and then there's a white house, a really pretty white house. Right in between there is what we purchased, and it goes back pretty far. And so we've been in this discernment process of how do we figure out what do we do with this land, and how do we be thoughtful about the long-term plan, and then back into what can we do now. So we have some slides, hopefully, to show you kind of what we've been working on, what we heard from you guys. So the first thing is, we're seeking God's direction together. There's nobody that has an agenda or has got the master plan all figured out yet. So we're very much just taking it step by step, but keeping in mind what our vision as a church is all the time. Living to know and love Jesus, make him known. That's what's driving the process. How does this make that happen? Actually, I was reflecting on it as we were in worship this morning. So only maybe 8 or 9 years ago, Seth was full-time lead pastor and full-time lead worship leader. So he would most Sundays lead worship and then go right into a message. And I was always blown away by that. We would reflect all the time, like, Lord, this seems impossible. Like, are you going to bring someone? And now we have this full complement worship team and several very capable leaders. It's just really cool to see how God delivered that, and now he will deliver what we need for this new building for sure. So you can go to that next slide. So again, why are we doing this? Buildings are not the mission. They will never be the mission. They're tools that support the mission. And the 4 things that again showed in the survey is how do we use this facility to facilitate our worship experience, fellowship opportunities. It was specifically mentioned, can we create a space that we can use for more things throughout the week? Discipleship, how do we be more intentional with our building design to facilitate discipleship? And then future generations, so think about children and youth. This new space has to have children and youth in mind, and space is designed for them to be able to interact in different ways. You can go to the next one. So setting expectations, looks like we lost some of our stuff there, but so that is what the team is, not what the team is not. So we are, that would be funny. We're not listening, we're not praying. So it's all jumped in together. But what we are doing is listening. We're not designing a final building, so we are praying. We're not launching a capital campaign, and we are learning and planning. So that there were, obviously it's like we're as a team we're trying to say, well, what's our goal? Our goal is to help design this master plan. So maybe go to those bottom 3 bullets and present that to you by December. So that's the master plan of where things will go, and some basic programming for the building. Like, we need to know how big it's going to be, basically, is all we need to know at this point. But we're not launching the capital campaign yet. We're not, we haven't been tasked by the elders to jump into those things. We're not kind of getting into deep architectural work yet. And the overall timeline, just so we're all on the same page, is we're talking about, like, unless the Lord wish he could do it, delivers a very large check to us quickly. The overall timeline is more in the 3 to 4 year range for us to actually be in this space, on a Sunday morning, for example. We plan to begin using the property before then, but we want to be eyes wide open about what that long-term plan is. And then a very rough initial estimate of at least $3 million that we would need to raise in order to be kind of fully into that space. That number in 3 years will probably be more like 4 because of the way building costs are going, but hopefully we can manage that. So our overall journey, we're listening to discernment, that's where we're in now, and that will always be a part of our process there. Master plan development, really how do we use the overall land by December. Architectural design then, funding and planning, and then construction would be kind of the steps to that. So what we heard very clearly through the survey is there were several themes, it was pretty cool to read through it. There was just a lot of consistency, but preserve who we are. We need to make sure that we don't compromise any part of what makes Greenmonte in order to get a building project done. Stay open to, if the Lord would redirect us to not pursue it, let's stay open to that. Invest in children and youth, that was very clear. Children and youth spaces, classrooms, large youth meeting spaces, the way the outdoor interacts with the indoor part of the facility. Create flexible ministry spaces for our community, which we'll talk a little bit more about that. Expand opportunities for fellowship, and then remain faithful stewards. So be really thoughtful, count the cost before we go into something, and make sure that we're doing it very efficiently. And then protect, there was a lot about this. Protect what makes Greenmonte special, I already touched on it, but in particular what was mentioned, family, relationships, authenticity, the hospitality component of Greenmonte, several mentions of how do we use loaves and fishes, how can we design a space that would even create more opportunities for fellowship and discipleship. So, looking towards the future, so several things were mentioned about hey, we'd love to have this, and these were the most consistent things. There was, this isn't exhaustive, there were other things mentioned, but these showed up many times throughout the survey. So obviously a priority is larger congregational gathering space, expanded children's ministry areas and youth ministry space, that again showed up again and again. Flexible classrooms, things that can be used for multiple different types of experiences. And then there were 3 things mentioned that if we could do this soon, this was over and over, if we could do this soon, that would be awesome. An outdoor pavilion, fire pits, walking trails, can we get over there and start using the property as soon as possible. And then spaces designed for fellowship throughout the week. So again, that was a consistent theme. How to create a space that every day there's potential for multiple things going on within the property. So that was kind of what we heard there. There was also several mentions of, and it kind of poses as a question, but several thoughts put in there. How can our campus become an even greater blessing for the community? And that word obviously is has a lot of different meanings. Community. So does that mean our local Cold Springs community here, the Christian community in Augusta County, nonprofits? What exactly are we thinking there? So we think we need to do some more work on that. Probably just maybe have a time where we get together and talk about what does it engaging the community mean for us as Greenmonte, and so maybe some more direction from the elders on that. But what ministries could happen there? Could we create a space where the community can use it in different ways, and who and how does that work? Who are we called to serve? How can a facility support that? So some more work to do on what it means to make the space community engagement focused. So get close to the end here, stay with me, but monthly email updates seem to be I was surprised that more of you don't want to hear from me every week, but no, there was a definite pull towards monthly email updates is enough. And then if there's something large, kind of a plan or something to unveil, then that would be a Sunday morning thing. Prayer walks around the property, there was a lot of interest in that. And we have 2 members of our team that are working on that, and they plan to start in August. So there are some trails out there. We just need to kind of reclaim them a little bit, so we don't, and figure out the parking stuff. So 2 members of our team are working on that right now, but you'll see an announcement about that when we can get that out there. So an opportunity to meet out there, walk around it, pray about it, and just seek what the Lord's doing there. And then our team remains very open. So Cole and I are jointly leading the team. We open to your feedback at any time. Several other members, Victoria, Eric, Scott Hashagen, and I think, did I miss somebody? I think that's the team. Oh, Ray Hardisky. So feel free to grab one of us. Any feedback you have, we're open to it. But yeah, just in summary, I would just say what we consistently heard is we want to get moving on this. We heard that. As soon as we can get some things going, there's excitement for that. Stay open-handed about the plan. We don't want to get too committed too early on a certain direction. And some of those specific things that were mentioned, we're incorporating that into kind of how we have. So as far as next steps, we are meeting with a couple different engineering firms that will help us develop this overall master plan. And so we're getting some pricing from them and talking through what we're looking for. But we do have to, there's a very formal process we have to go through with the county to get to a place where we could actually do anything building-wise out there, even like a pavilion. We would need a site plan approval from the county and things like that. So we need some help on thinking about the best entrances, where can we do it, what would VDOT allow, septic systems, where's that gonna be, how are we gonna get stuff to it, all the utilities, connections, those kinds of things. So we're working with those firms right now, getting some pricing, and then hopefully one of those will help us get to kind of this plan by December. So, I know that's a lot, but just ask you to keep praying about the process. I'll put this in an email, what I just said, and send it out this week so you can reflect on it there. Again, we are very open to your feedback and input. Please come talk to us. We want to do what God's doing, not what one of us wants to do. So we want to stay sensitive to that.